Hello, this is Ben Lombardo, and this is Should You Get a Doctorate? To begin, let's take a look at the main goals. How does a salary change with a doctorate, and how many other doctors will I see in my industry? These are two important things to consider when deciding whether or not to get a doctorate in a particular industry. On the left, we can see that in most industries, there are almost no doctorates except for the science and technical industry. So, if you want to see other PhD students, stay there. If you want the highest salary, however, you should look at the information industry, where the average doctor makes 160K. Very impressive. Not so impressive looking at the non-doctorate profit, however, but we do see that doctorates overall industries have a lower bound above 100K, which will be seen later as well. Now let's take a look at the data sets. When collecting my data, I was looking for the average salary and the number of employees, both for doctorates and overall employees in each industry. Of particular note here is I used a new Python library, OpenPyXL, for my data parser function. I also used multiple API calls for my WebParser2 function because the API did not have a single request to get information over multiple industries. So I had to first get the total industries with the first request, and then iteratively request each one by one. Now for the initial calculations, you may notice the only data I collected was the total salary and the doctorate salary. At no point did I specifically collect the non-doctorate salary, so this had to be calculated. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a fair comparison of doctors versus everyone, including doctors. So that calculation occurs here with a fairly simple formula that you can see at the very end, get non-PhD data. Now the first two insights are fairly straightforward. The first one looks at the most and least profitable industries for doctors. What's most notable here is that even the least profitable industry, government, is still 108K average salary. However, the lowest percentage of doctors can get as low as 0.07%, again with government. So, takeaway number one, do not go into government with a doctorate. In Insight 3, what this is essentially looking at is if you were to rank the different industries by salary, and if you were to rank the different industries by percentage of doctors or number of doctors, how do these two rankings compare? Do they have a positive correlation with each other? And what we see is that they're not as correlated as you might think. Science and technical has by far the most doctors and the highest percentage of doctors, but is only 5th place for salary. Now, this may be explained by Insight 4, which shows that there is some suspicious data going on in that field and two others. In particular, in these three fields, the overall salary is apparently higher than the average PhD salary. This seems intuitively wrong, which implies that there may be either something wrong with the data or maybe further analysis of these categories is required. However, on the positive side, with Insight 5, we can see the best case scenario of these various industries. In the best case, with agriculture and food, you can get a 2.7 times multiplier to your average salary, a raise of $68,000. Not bad at all. Now here's the first data visualization, the average salary by industry. Fairly straightforward. It's the average salary in each industry, and as we saw before, notably there is a lower bound above 100K for doctorates. Here we can see in more detail the percentage of doctorate employees per industry. As we saw before, almost no doctors by percentage in each industry except for science and technical. Now here we can see a slight correlation between the number of employees in an industry and the salary of the doctors in that industry. Notably, Science and Technical was removed from this dataset as an outlier because it had 600,000 employees and wasn't fully representing the data. Lastly, the new material I used was some information on gathering subplots for Plotly pie charts and the new OpenPyXL Python library. Overall, this project aimed to deduce whether or not you should get a doctorate in each industry. It looked at two factors. It looked at whether or not you should get a doctorate based on salary improvement, which in many cases isn't much at all, or by the number of other doctorates that you will see, which again is often not many at all, unless you're going to the science and technical field, in which case you may want one. From this, I would conclude, in most industries, it is probably not necessary. However, in a couple industries, I would say it is definitely worth seriously looking into. That's about it. Thank you very much.